And let's now bring in foreign affairs journalist Pepe Escobar for his thoughts. He's in Bangkok right now. Pepe, very nice to see you right here, right now. So what we have now, less than a week before Crimea's referendum, and we know that the vast majority of people are going to vote for joining Russia. Meanwhile, Kiev says that it won't give up a single centimetre of its land. So where does that leave things then?
Well, it's going to be a done deal. And Robert Gates, former CIA himself, he admitted that on Sunday, that Crimea is going to be part of Russia. The thing is how this is going to happen. We know that the referendum is going to be overwhelmingly in favor of rejoining Russia. But how this is going to happen in terms of President Putin organizing it legally and trying to convince his European partners, as he put it, that this is absolutely how it should be. Follow the money and follow NATO. These are the two most important facts. Meeting this Wednesday between Prime Minister Yats and Obama in Washington. This means the White House recognizing a regime change in Ukraine, which includes rightists, fascists, and neo-Nazis. And NATO meeting with Yats already in Brussels this past Friday, and Prime Minister Yats said, we're going to have a very good cooperation. You know what that means in the long run. NATO bases in Ukraine, which is an absolute red line for Russia. So we have 3 or 4 very complex processes at the same time, and they're going to be more or less solved within a week or so. Very, very complicated.
So, as you say, the West is strongly opposing the very idea of Crimea joining Russia. But what can they do? Is it possible that they can provide Kiev with military support or anything like that?
No, can you imagine NATO fighting a hot war in the Eastern European borderlands against Russia? No, this is not going to happen. It's just bluster. But in terms of, I was even the possibility in the near future of a jihad in Crimea. I was told by a very good Saudi source, pay attention to what the Saudis are up to. They recalled fighters from Syria. They could mobilize their jihadis in the Caucasus, as Bandar Bush, Prince Bandar bin Sultan, already threatened President Putin a few months ago. They could mobilize a very, very small but active confrontational fringe of Tatars in Crimea itself. So this is what could be used to destabilize Crimea. But destabilize for what? We're not going to have a NATO intervention in Crimea, forget it. And the threat of sanctions all the time by the European Union. Today they're saying they're going to cancel the South Stream pipeline, which goes under the Black Sea and is going to be online in 2015. If they do it, where are they going to get the gas? They don't have a replacement. They cannot get it from Qatar. They cannot get it from Turkmenistan. And obviously they cannot get it from Iran for obvious reasons, we all know.
And we know that Barack Obama is about to meet the post-coup Ukrainian Prime Minister. What do you expect will emerge in terms of steps Washington might take in support of the country's interim leadership now?
Well, politically, as I said, legitimation of a regime change in the Ukraine, which is completely illegal under, President Obama's so-called international law, the way it is interpreted in Washington, of course. And, of course, follow the money. John Kerry already promised $1 billion for the Ukraine, which is a paltry sum. It pays Ukraine's bills for probably 2 weeks or so. Ukraine, for the next 2 years, they're going to need $35 billion. If they get what the European Union is promising, 10 billion euros, that will be 13, almost $14 billion. The conditions for this package are going to be absolutely outrageous. Everybody who lived in Latin America under the IMF structural adjustment, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, knows what that means in the long run. So a lot of Ukrainians, Western Ukrainians, they are thinking that, well, we have a new government, Obama is going to receive our new prime minister, we're going to get a lot of money from the European Union and IMF, and soon we're going to join the EU. bye-bye, forget it. It's not gonna happen.
Russia has repeatedly called on the West, as well on different international groups, to condemn the rise of far-right sentiment in Ukraine, as well as particular statements made by the right sector leader and his plans to run for president. Why are the EU and the US ignoring that?
Because the whole thing from the start was a very complex Orange Revolution remix. I have called it a tequila sunrise revolution, Aperol spritz revolution, whatever you want, a vodka orange revolution, whatever you want to call it. But this time was much more complex because it involved support from rightist, fascist, and neo-Nazi groups, including right sector, of course, we all know they're neo-Nazis, and this Svoboda party, which in the last elections, they got less votes in Ukraine than the Communist Party. And now, because they are part of ministry positions, they want to ban the Communist Party from Ukraine as well. So, and NED, everything has been fully documented. The facts on the ground leading to the coup have been fully documented, not only by RT, but a host of independent websites. It's very easy to do a decent Google search and find all the facts on the ground. The thing is, what for? What for, ultimately, once again, very important, is to destabilize Russia in Ukraine, which half of Ukraine at least is part of the Russian subconscious, culturally, politically, economically, emotionally as well. And of course, the NATO bases that are absolutely essential. So it's missile defense in Poland and Romania. It's NATO bases all over the world, in fact. But the real prize, and it's at the same time the red line for President Putin, is a NATO base inside Ukraine. This is not going to happen. And what Crimea, in fact, was the Russians preempting the possibility of Crimea being taken over by the people who took over in Kiev. So they preempted a second coup that was going to happen in Crimea, replicating the coup that happened in Kiev.
Yeah, Pepe, and very briefly, if you can. So you write for the Asia Times. What do you make of China's position on the Ukrainian crisis?
It's extremely complex. Today, for instance, President Xi Jinping, this was Chinese media, in fact, released a phone call made by President Xi Jinping to Obama and to Angela Merkel. So far, the Chinese had not said anything. This means that they are extremely worried, and President Xi told Obama and Merkel, look, try to find a diplomatic solution to this. Chinese diplomacy is usually very reactive. They are not proactive. But now they are extremely concerned, because if this develops into a confrontational Cold War situation, and the potential is still there, they are paying attention to what could happen in a mini Orange Revolution inside China sooner or later. It could be in Xinjiang, it could be in Tibet, and not coincidentally, today, Larry Diamond has been talking to the Hong Kong press about the possibility of, Hong Kong, they need democracy as well. So he's testing the waters for the possibility of an Orange Revolution even inside Hong Kong. This, for Beijing, is not even a red line. It's 10,000 red lines in one, you know. So they are extremely concerned.
Pepe Escobar, thank you very much indeed for sharing your perspective with us. Pepe Escobar, foreign affairs journalist from the Asia Times, live from Bangkok. Thanks again.